Are you moving to Iowa? Well, if you are, you're going to want to stick around because you're going to want to know if Iowa is right for you. Now, Iowa is a wonderful place to live, but it is not for everybody, and that's what I try to tell people on this channel. And I have a bunch of reasons why that is. Now, it could be fantastic for you, but if you're moving here and you really want to know if it's the right fit, this is the video for you. So the number one thing that you're going to hear about in Iowa is the weather. And you're probably thinking, just talking about the cold and snow. That is a huge factor. We get a ton of snow, we get a ton of cold temperatures, and it seems like the winter lasts forever. And in some senses, it kind of does. You know, it goes from about November-ish to about February, March. And it does feel like a long time. Now, that's not the actual winter, but it does feel like winter during that time period. You get a lot of gray skies, a lot of dark days, the cold temperatures, of course, and some people just cannot handle that. But on the flip side, we get very hot temperatures in the summertime, and not only that, we have humidity like crazy. And some people are thinking, well, it's just the Midwest. How bad could the humidity be? Well, it can get pretty terrible here. And the reason why is because of all the agriculture that we have around here. A term that I have heard, and it seems to be very true, is corn sweat. Yeah, I said corn sweat, and it sounds a little bit humorous, but it's true. The corn, the beans, all the agricultural fields that we have are emitting liquid up into the air, and we get a ton of humidity. So we get those hot temperatures, you get the humid feel to the air.
Feels a little humid.
It just can't seem to cool down even at night. That's the most surprising thing for people, is when they go to sleep at night, it still feels hot. Whereas if you're in an arid place like, say, Colorado, you may get hot temperatures, but at night it really cools off because there's just not a lot of moisture to hold on to those temperatures. So that is something to think about. Obviously the winter time gets talked about all the time, but that summer, that's a sleeper, and you may want to know about it before moving here, because for me, I don't like summer that much because I don't like heat. And since we're on the topic of seasons, let's talk about spring and fall. And not really so much about the spring and fall itself, but what comes with the spring and fall. And what comes with it is allergies. We are in the spring right now. We have flowering trees all around us, and we have things getting pollen up into the air. And the allergies can get pretty terrible here. In fact, my fiance, she was from the Philippines, never had allergies in her life. She moved here, and all of a sudden, she is starting to have allergies, and she cannot stand it. Luckily for me, I don't have spring allergies, where is what she has, but I do have the fall allergies, and fall allergies for me, absolutely horrible. So why is that? Well, when they go to pick the corn and the beans in the fields, they spew up pollen from all the plants that are in there, including the weeds, and it really bothers me. I think ragweed is the number one thing that gets me personally. So if you see me in the fall, there's a good chance my eyes are swelled up and I have tears running down my eyes because of the allergies. So if you have bad allergies, just either prepare for it and have some kind of medication, or just know you're going to be sneezing and itching your eyes a lot, because Iowa, there's a lot of allergies here. Now, I can't necessarily recommend a certain allergy drug for you, but I can help you find a home. I am a licensed realtor here in the state of Iowa, and I'd love to help you out and find that perfect place for you. So if you have questions about moving to Iowa, my number is popping up down below. I am the one that answers all those phone calls, emails, and text, and I cannot wait to talk to you. Now, if you're coming from a large city, Iowa is going to be a little bit of a shock to you, because Iowa has cities, but they're really not that big. Des Moines is the biggest city in the whole state, and they're not even at 1 million people, although I've read that they are headed towards 1 million people in the next few years. But it is the largest by far. So what to expect when you move here is that you're gonna have smaller cities, or small towns, or even you're gonna have rural neighborhoods. And you got to understand that it's a whole different type of lifestyle. For example, if you're in a small town, you go to the grocery store, you're gonna maybe go to a Walmart. Back where I grew up, a town of 1,500, we'd go to a Walmart 30 minutes away, and we had to get all of our groceries for the entire week, maybe a couple weeks, because we were not gonna just be able to go down the road and get the groceries. Now that isn't everywhere. Obviously, here in the Quad Cities, which is where I'm located, we have amenities like Walmart and stuff really close by. I feel lucky because now I can just go and drive down the road really quick and get what I need. But if you're gonna live in one of those small towns, it's really, you gotta plan ahead because you're not getting everything that you want all the time, easy access. And speaking about cities and small towns, the distances in between the cities and the small towns may feel like large distances depending on where you're coming from. So I'm in the Quad Cities, which is on the eastern border of Iowa and Illinois. And to get to the next large city, which would be, I consider, Des Moines, we're looking at about 2.5 hours. Yes, we have Cedar Rapids a little bit closer, sitting at about an hour drive. But overall, you're just gonna notice that the distances are much larger depending on where you're coming from. You know, cities on like California, everything's right there, right close. But here, distances are fairly large. I get a lot of people reaching out, hey, I wanna move to Iowa. Okay, well, where at? Because you have a lot of territory to cover. So if you're moving here, just know that the distances are gonna be a factor for you. And I don't know, it might be a dissuader to come move to Iowa. Now I am in the Iowa-Illinois border here in the Quad Cities, and the thing that I hear the most when people are moving to Iowa from Illinois is that they are wanting to get away from the property taxes that are in Illinois. But here's the thing, if you look at property taxes on the national average, Iowa, it still isn't that great. I think we're like the number 10, closest to the bottom as far as the highest property taxes. We are better than Illinois as far as that percentage, but if you look on a national average, the property taxes are fairly high, and some people don't like that, and I can understand why. So just know if you're moving here and you're buying a property, that the taxes, depending on where you're coming from, are probably gonna be higher than expected. I just had a couple come in from Las Vegas, and they were shocked by the taxes that were everywhere with the properties. So just know that coming in, that it may be more expensive than you might think when it comes to those property taxes. But on the plus side, when we're looking at income tax, something that has been happening the last couple of years is that Iowa is going towards a flat tax of 3.6%. So that is gonna lower the income tax, and I think they have plans to go to no income tax. Can't confirm that, but I think that might be the plan. So yes, property taxes are high, but no income taxes, maybe not as high as you might expect. Speaking of homes in Iowa, on average, the home prices in Iowa are gonna be below the national average. I was just talking to a fan out in Orange County, California. Shout out to you, Jordan. And he was telling me he was shocked by what he could afford in Iowa versus California. He was talking about acreages with ponds and nice, beautiful homes. And he's like, I couldn't get anywhere close to that over here in California. And you see that a lot when people move to Iowa, is they can afford a lot more home typically than they could anywhere else that they were. Now again, this is very dependent on where you're coming from, but on average, the home prices in Iowa are pretty much lower than anywhere you can get for the most part. Now, if you're moving to Iowa and you're just kind of figuring out if it's right for you, the one thing I would say is find out what kind of lifestyle you want if you're moving here. We really got three basic lifestyles. You have the city life, you have the small town life, and then you got the rural life. And they differ quite a bit across the spectrum. Obviously, the city is the city. You have amenities nice and close, you got the traffic, you got everything that goes along with the city. Small towns, a little bit different. You have a community around you. You may have a stoplight or two, who knows, I grew up with one stoplight in my town, but it's just a whole different vibe than the city. You know your neighbors, you know that you can trust them, and it's just a cool vibe. And then you got the rural. This is the people that are wanting to be farmers, maybe even just a hobby farmer with a little bit more acreage, but you gotta decide which one is gonna be you. Otherwise, you might be just a little disappointed when you get here because it might not be what you expected, and you need to understand that before deciding to make that move here. Now, if you know exactly what you want to be in the lifestyle, but you're not sure where you want to be, well, I am a licensed realtor here in Iowa, so hit me up. My number is popping up down below. I'd love to help you figure out where that perfect spot is for you. But if you want to see what the whole state of Iowa actually looks like, check out this Iowa vlog right here.